Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a tragedy that, honestly, completely revolutionized European football. We're looking at the 1985 Heysel Stadium disaster, a heartbreaking story of systemic failure, but also one that triggered a massive transformation in how we experience live sports. Let's get right into why Heysel changed football forever.
To really grasp the gravity of this, we need to start in the present day. Back in May 2026, at the unveiling of the forever-bound memorial at Anfield, Liverpool FC CEO Billy Hogan said, "This memorial is a symbol of shared remembrance, of unity, and the bond formed between Liverpool and Juventus. This is a moment for all of us to pause and reflect, and to commit once again to ensuring that their memory lives on." You see, for a long time, Heysel was almost a taboo subject. It was kind of swept under the carpet. But thankfully, the footballing world has finally moved toward an era of open acknowledgement and shared remembrance.
And that commitment to remembrance, it honors a staggering, heartbreaking number, 39. That's the number of football supporters, the vast majority being Juventus fans, who never made it home on May 29, 1985. Plus, around 600 more were injured in a truly devastating crush. To understand how stadium safety was so completely overhauled across Europe, we have to understand exactly what led to the loss of those 39 lives.
Section 1. The Darkest Hour. May 29, 1985.
So picture the scene. It's the 1985 European Cup final. This is the absolute pinnacle of continental football, what we'd call the Champions League today. You've got Liverpool FC, the defending champs hunting their 5th European crown, taking on the Italian giants Juventus. It was supposed to be the ultimate celebration of the beautiful game. But the venue? The Heysel Stadium in Brussels, Belgium. Built way back in 1930, this place was 55 years old and, as we'll see, it was critically, dangerously unsuited for an event of this scale. What should have been a gala quickly descended into an unimaginable nightmare.
Things escalated rapidly, and I mean terrifyingly fast. At 19 o'clock, tensions were already boiling over in the standing terraces. Just 15 minutes later, at 19:15, a group of Liverpool supporters breached a really flimsy boundary fence and charged straight into Section Z. Now, Section Z was technically designated as a neutral area, but it was actually packed mostly with Juventus fans. This charge caused a panicked, massive retreat. And then, at 19:20, just 5 minutes later, the sheer, crushing pressure of the fleeing crowd against a decaying concrete retaining wall caused it to collapse entirely. People were crushed. It's hard to even comprehend. And yet, incredibly, at 21:40, the match actually kicked off. It was a hugely controversial decision to play the game, which Juventus won 1-0, by the way, but authorities were terrified that canceling it right then and there would trigger even worse, uncontrollable riots out in the streets of Brussels.
Which brings us to Section 2, Anatomy of a Disaster, the trifecta of failure. You know, the catastrophe at Heysel wasn't just some freak, unpredictable accident. It was the result of a fatal intersection, a trifecta of failure, if you will. 3 major elements collided on that exact day: aggressive English hooliganism, crumbling stadium infrastructure, and severe administrative and policing failures. Honestly, if you take away even just one of these elements, this whole tragedy might have been avoided.
Let's look at the first factor. The immediate catalyst was undeniably the violent charge by that group of Liverpool fans. During the 1980s, English football was just plagued by hooliganism. We're talking about highly organized fan violence, pitch invasions, vandalism. It was toxic. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a deeply ingrained cultural issue that had severely tarnished the sport's reputation and made match days incredibly volatile.
But we also have to look objectively at the venue itself. The Heysel Stadium was, quite literally, a ticking time bomb. Built 55 years earlier, it had actually failed prior safety inspections. The concrete on the terraces was crumbling so badly that fans could just pick up loose chunks of masonry to throw as weapons. And the outer perimeter walls? They were made of such fragile cinder blocks that ticketless fans were literally kicking holes right through them to bypass the turnstiles. The place was falling apart and totally unequipped for the density of a major European final.
And finally, those structural issues were compounded by just stunning administrative negligence. Get this, out of the 1,000 police officers deployed for the match, only 72 were actually stationed inside the stadium terraces where the trouble broke out. The Belgian authorities basically treated the whole thing like an external street control issue, leaving the inside severely under-policed. Add to that a catastrophic ticketing mix-up. Organizers put Juventus fans and Italian expats in Block Z, supposedly that neutral zone, which placed them right next to rival Liverpool supporters, separated by nothing more than a flimsy chicken wire fence. It was an absolute recipe for disaster.
Section 3. The immediate fallout. Blame and bans. In the aftermath, the Belgian judicial inquiries didn't just point the finger in one direction. Accountability was distributed. Yes, 14 Liverpool fans were convicted of manslaughter, receiving 3-year sentences for their role in the initial charge. But the courts also recognized the massive systemic failures. They handed down convictions to police captain Johan Mayu for involuntary manslaughter and to a top Belgian FA official for negligence, both receiving suspended sentences. So the blame was shared across both individuals and institutions.
On the sporting side, though, the reaction from UEFA was swift, severe, and completely historic. They slapped a blanket, indefinite ban on all English clubs from playing in European competitions. That ban ultimately lasted 5 whole years for all English teams, with Liverpool serving an additional year, making it a 6-year exclusion for them.
The impact of that ban was monumental. Back in England, domestic stadium attendances plummeted to their lowest levels since World War I. The public was just completely disillusioned with the violence. Meanwhile, across the continent, the 5-year absence of English clubs, who, remember, had completely dominated the tournament for nearly a decade, caused a massive power shift. Clubs like AC Milan and PSV Eindhoven stepped up to claim European glory. English football was basically forced into a corner to take a long, hard look at itself.
Section 4. A blueprint for reform, a new era of safety.
The difference between pre-1985 and post-Heysel football is literally night and day. Before the tragedy, you had these massive open standing terraces, crumbling concrete, alcohol flowing freely, and barely any segregation between fiercely rival fans. But post-Heysel, governing bodies finally woke up to the fact that controlling crowd density and upgrading architecture were matters of life and death. This is exactly why Heysel changed football forever. It sparked the shift toward modern all-seater stadiums, strict UEFA licensing where venues had to actually prove they were safe, heavy CCTV surveillance, and really rigorous ticket and zoning controls.
And it wasn't just football authorities making changes. Government stepped in with a heavy hand. The 1985 European Convention on Spectator Violence was drafted in record time. Over in the UK, the Sporting Events Act of 1985 banned alcohol in view of the pitch, directly targeting the role of intoxication. Then, the Public Order Act of 1986 created legal exclusion orders to keep known hooligans far away from the grounds. Policing strategies permanently shifted from just reacting to riots to a centralized intelligence model, like the UK Football Policing Unit, proactively stopping high-risk individuals from ever getting near a stadium.
As for the site of the disaster itself, the decaying Heysel Stadium was completely barred from hosting major European matches and was finally demolished in 1994. In its place, the state-of-the-art, multi-use King Baudouin Stadium was built. It stands as a physical representation of the sport finally moving past the dangerous architecture of its past.
Section 5. The enduring legacy. Remembering the 39.
You know, for decades, talking about Heysel was highly uncomfortable for many involved. It was almost treated as a taboo subject, but time and reflection have really started to shift that narrative. As former Liverpool player Ian Rush, who actually played in that tragic final, noted at the recent 41st anniversary, today is a deeply moving moment. It's hard to believe over 40 years have passed since Heysel, but the memory of that day never fades. The footballing world is finally confronting this history openly, prioritizing the memories of the victims over institutional defensive-ness.
We see that newfound openness in these beautiful, permanent, modern commemorations. In May 2026, Liverpool FC unveiled the Forever Bound Memorial at Anfield, featuring 2 scarves gently knotted in Italian Carrara marble to symbolize the bond between the clubs. This followed Juventus unveiling their own Verso Altrove memorial in Turin for the 40th anniversary in May 2025. And what's really incredible is that these were developed in close consultation with survivors and fan groups. It's a shared, unified commitment to make sure those 39 victims are never, ever forgotten again.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. While Heysel absolutely forced the sport to step back from the abyss, giving us the safest era of stadium experiences in history, it also serves as a permanent, heartbreaking warning. As football continues to grow and as new generations of fans fill these massive arenas, we have to ask ourselves, are we doing enough to ensure history never repeats itself? Vigilance in stadium safety, smart policing, and a respectful fan culture just cannot be taken for granted. They must be an absolute non-negotiable constant. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.